Welcome back, YouTubers, to another Sunday video where me and NJ discuss the good and bad of the week and the so-so stuff in the wrestling shows with Raw, SmackDown, and TNA. NJ, introduce us.
Well, here we have Mr. Barkin!
Yay!
And me, the N to the J to the N to the J, it's NJ. What's up?
Anyway, so this week we had Raw, we had TNA, we had SmackDown, the usual kind of stuff. Make sure you subscribe up above, of course, like this video. Any comments on any show, any thoughts you have on the week in wrestling, get in that comment section down below.
And please make sure you contact us in the links in the description box below.
Yes, and without further ado, shall we move on to the Raw Super Show?
Yes, and you'll hear our views from the British Fist.
Ah, yes.
Catching.
Okay, so NJ, we opened up this week on Raw with none other than Mr. CM Punk. He comes out and talks about being different, and we all know he's very different, as he's very good at what he does. You know, we got the announcement that it'll be R-Truth versus CM Punk, and we got this whole thing with Nash coming out, with Triple H coming out, so I guess it was just basically done to develop that feud.
Well, the thing is, we do expect there's going to be a good main event later, because we've seen CM Punk versus The Miz and how much a good fight they put on.
Yeah.
So we are expecting a good match later on.
Yeah.
We are.
And basically the whole point of this segment was for Triple H to fire Kevin Nash, wasn't it?
Yeah, basically it's just like how Kevin Nash has been a liar and how he puts his hands on Triple H and it all led to him getting fired.
Yeah, so basically that's pretty much what the whole thing led to. We got a match out of it as well. We got CM Punk versus R-Truth, which was our main event. The whole thing lasted about 13 minutes. I think this maybe could have been done a little bit quicker, but I guess it achieved what it was supposed to achieve. Hype between Punk and Triple H and firing Kevin Nash, which was supposed to be our big bombshell of the show, I guess.
Yeah, I think it just was on too long, but it got to its point at the end.
Yep, so effective opening segment in that kind of sense, but kind of dragged on a tad maybe. Afterwards, we get the whole Laurinaitis and Nash backstage thing when Kevin Nash is going into the car, kind of developing a bit there, keeping us guessing as to what the fuck is going on between them two.
There's going to be something there, because obviously, if you leave with someone as big as Laurinaitis to bench, there's going to be something else leading on from that.
True. After that, we get a tag team match. Evan Bourne and Kofi Kingston, who are now known as Air Boom, versus Carly and Jinder Mahal. And I remember when we saw them as a tag team, we were thinking, fucking finally, they're a tag team. Because we thought there'd be a tag team, Jinder Mahal and Carly, for a while now, and they've only really just done it. And now, on SmackDown, we saw they were broken up.
It's a bit of a shame, even though this match itself, it was just a bit boring. They weren't linked to it. Carly basically accidentally hits Mahal, and that finishes the match.
She accidentally hits him with a chop, and it's just like, wow, you're already trying to break him up. I guess they're kind of trying to get Mahal off TV, maybe because it's a bit green. We have Kofi Kingston and Evan Bourne picking up the win. They're the tag team champions, I guess, so keep them looking strong going into the pay-per-view where we know they're going to defend the titles, basically.
They need to, and Jinder Mahal and Carly, they don't need to look anything good or bad because they're just floating about now.
Overall, it just was a bad segment, would you say?
I think it was. There weren't much excitement to that match at all. No.
What a shame we got the same match on SmackDown the next fucking on the.
I don't know why they thought that. No.
Neither do I. Well, we'll find out on the SmackDown bit, which we'll do later. We'll be doing it in proper order today. No Tuesday SmackDown for us.
No, it's
no
not.
Live Super Show.
All back to normal now.
Back to normal with spoilers. Next match we get is Eve Torres versus Beth Phoenix. This is a #1 contendership match. My question here maybe, was this needed? We kind of already established a Beth Phoenix rivalry. Maybe her rematch clause can be activated here. Do we really need a #1 contendership match? Maybe use a promo segment to kind of develop a rivalry a little bit more, possibly.
But all I'll say is that we will keep saying that number 1 contender matches are needed. Yeah. So for this to actually happen, it's a one-on-one #1 contendership. If it was like a battle royal, like we've always said, that would have been better just than a boring. Because what has Eve Torres actually done to deserve this?
Nothing, really. You have Eve Torres versus Beth Phoenix. We know Beth Phoenix is going to win. She wins it in 2 minutes. My problem with this match was the fact that there's so much concentration going on between Kelly and Natalya on commentary. It was kind of hard to keep up with the match, wasn't it?
It was. That's the problem, because as much as we want to see Beth Phoenix dominate and do all the great stuff in the ring, the camera did keep going to the commentators, and it just kind of dragged us away from the action in the ring.
One thing I will say, at least the aftermath of this match did something to develop the storyline between the two. We're always complaining, well, me especially, that the lack of storyline in WWE at the moment sometimes. At least after the match, Natalia attacked Kelly and Eve Torres, and it kind of shows them as dominant heels and develops the storyline a little bit more going into the pay-per-view.
Because that is what we need to see. We do need to see the Divas of Doom actually become to be a strong force. So for them to have their time against Kelly and Eve Torres after the match was definitely good for the push and rivalry going on.
It's what you need to do with two of the best Divas wrestlers in the company, really, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Definitely. We then go our main event. This was probably, in my opinion, the most effective segment of the night. We have R-Truth versus CM Punk. We began, though, with a promo with Miz and R-Truth talking about their conspiracy. And the great thing about it is it really did make them look like a tag team in the way they were communicating and the way they were together and the chemistry they showed in their promo.
I do agree. It did show their CONS conspiracy. Yeah, how much of a tag team they are, yes.
Yeah, we have Miz announcing that they're going to be facing Air Boom and Night Champions. So we have a tag team title pre-announced. I just hope now they kind of do something on the Raw Super Show to help build this feud. To the instead of it just being a random match, to build some kind of feud, because we have 4 great wrestlers there, which could really do well. Which would really do well for this tag team division, in my opinion, and if they do develop a feud between the two, it could be a great match. I think.
Well, I'm definitely thinking with Miz and R-Truth teaming up together, going against the newly-ish crowned tag champs, it should basically the heels put on a great fight against the Air Boom. Yes.
Yeah, and what we got this before the match, which was good. The match itself was very good. It's R-Truth versus CM Punk. The two good wrestlers. We know that this is going to be a good match. It got a good 10 minutes. This is the longest, apart from the main event, of course, which was elimination, the longest match of the night. R-Truth was the sort of controlled the match as a heel. CM Punk won the match. Actually, no. Yeah, he did win the match, didn't he? Of course he won the match. It's CM fucking Punk, isn't it?
Yeah.
What am I thinking?
The thing is, R-Truth, I think this match was a lot better or had a lot more action than the Miz one. But when you have these two going against, it was just entertaining, I think.
I personally thought the Miz match was slightly better because it went on for a little bit longer. And I think Miz controlled the match a little bit better, but that's just my opinion. Basically, and then after this match, Punk wins clean after Miz kind of tried to interfere in the match. But basically, Punk wins clean, so that's making him look strong going into his match against Triple H. After the match, we get a post-match segment. Basically, Triple H coming out and saying their match at Night of Champions will be a no DQ match. And then CM Punk says that if Triple H loses, he should resign as the COO.
There's definitely that much more bigger than what it was, even though it didn't really need this. But again, it's got people talking about it now and wondering what's going to happen next, especially with Nash temporarily out the way.
Yeah, I think this now will be our main event for Night Champions. It's kind of got that main event feel about it now, isn't it? A big stipulation, a no DQ match. I just wonder if they're doing it too fast. This whole thing too fast. It just seems like they might be doing it a little bit too quickly.
Well, depending on the outcome of the match, it might be able to be dragged on to a bit further upwards, which I hope it does.
Also, I feel that this little segment here may have been better putting it in the opener. Just because you had a segment devoted to Triple H, CM Punk and Nash, could you not have put it in the opener? Just the thought there.
Well, I'm quite happy with the way they're filling out time. They have segment here, so I'm quite happy how it went.
Yeah, God. We had the Zack Ryder filler shit, which we won't talk about here in the British because we hate him. It didn't help that Lawler was in that match too, but there we go. We have, oh God, this was another bad segment of the night. We followed a very good our main event with this. It was Randy Orton versus Heath Slater. Randy Orton versus Heath Slater. Why was this match even on the card when you have a US title feud that you really need to hype up for the pay-per-view now?
It's quite sad that Randy Orton has to go against someone as low as Heath Slater. This match was just nothing really exciting. It just didn't do it really for either one of them.
Yeah, and this is the problem now with the super shows. You have Randy Orton taking up a spot which could really be taken up by Dolph Ziggler, Jack Swagger, and Alex Riley. This whole US title feud, especially with a very meaningless match like this, which lasted about 3 minutes, and it's just like, it was a really pointless match in my opinion. All I'll say is at least Orton buried someone who doesn't really have much of a future in WWE. That's what I'll say.
I think they could have just done without this match. No need to get Randy Orton involved, but they could have done without this match.
Replace it with a US title segment so it can hype for the pay-per-view. Instead of having it involved in the clusterfuck, which was the main event. We had a promo, and as our main event, we started off with a promo between Del Rio and John Cena.
Well, Cena talked about Del Rio,
Yeah, and then Del Rio comes out in his car. And throughout the night, we've seen these little backstage segments of him talking to guys like Barrett, Ziggler, Christian. And then what we see is these guys come out of the ring to attack John Cena, even though they said they weren't going to do his dirty business. And then from then on, the focus goes entirely off John Cena and Del Rio. And onto this clusterfuck of a main event.
And the thing about this main event is basically Theodore Long announces this 6-man...
Yeah, 8-man.
8-man, sorry,
Oh,
yeah.
fucking hell.
And it just got a bit weary from there because it should have been announced by Triple H, who's now taken over. But again, it weren't the best match made. But the good thing about this, it did give us the wrestlers that we wanted to see actually involved in the night in a match.
The biggest problem about this segment, in my opinion, was that it took the whole focus away from what really should have been the main event, which was the Cena Del Rio feud. Because think about it, this feud really, lacked a bit last week because we didn't have Del Rio. It's not really got too much steam going into the pay-per-view, and this really hasn't helped, has it? This segment it doesn't really have that much steam going into the pay-per-view. You really need to nail this really before the pay-per-view.
Well, the only good thing about this match is that obviously the wrong people the wrestlers that are just basically buried, as I call them, got eliminated straight away. We'll get to the final, which is John Cena versus Jack Swagger and Dolph Ziggler. And I'm thinking, could that be a possible Night Champions match? Swagger and Ziggler.
They did tease something, didn't they, between the two? Because we had Vicky Guerrero at ringside. They're trying to both impress Vicky Guerrero. And with that, we have the whole disagreeing thing. And then Cena gets at the win, of course, because he's the big baby face and he always wins these fucking matches.
So it finishes the night with Cena.
Pretty much.
But then the worst happens. Alberto Rio cleverly comes into the ring when John Cena's not at his best of that big match he's had. And he just goes straight into an attitude adjustment.
Pretty much, and it's just not, what kind of interest is this building to the pay-per-view? The whole focus on here really needs to be on Del Rio's character as a champion, not as Del Rio, not as fucking Cena as a super Cena. Do you know what I mean?
I know Cena needs his strength looking into the match, so he needs to look ready for Alberto Rio, but again, he could have done that the last week before the pay-per-view. But again, it wasn't the best ending of Raw. No,
and overall, Raw on the whole really wasn't that entertaining, was it? The only real effective segment I thought was the CM Punk and Miz and R-Truth segment, our main event. The rest of it, to me, was not very good at all, I don't think.
Yeah.
I give it a C-. I know you did too, so...
Pretty much, yeah.
There wasn't much there, really.
Not a lot. It gave us the whole Divas thing good. It gave us the whole CM Punk and all that, like you said. Yeah. But the main event was quite messy.
It was.
So I can't see much about that.
No, so after talking about Raw, should we go on to TNA Impact Wrestling?
Yeah, let's. So this week on TNA Impact Wrestling, we had the go-home show before No Surrender, where the BFG series was counting, brother, right? It was, so hopefully we're going to get a good feeling for the pay-per-view from this event.
Yes, we opened up with one of our favourite superstars this week, with Mr. fucking Anderson.
Very good opener.
Yeah, it's always good to hear from him, isn't it?
It is, obviously he's not been doing as great as he should be lately, so it's good that he's having his time in the ring now.
Yeah. He calls out Bully Ray and thanks him for kicking him out of Immortal. Why was he even in that fucking Immortal faction? I don't know. He talks about that he still has a rematch for the title, which he'll cash in tonight. So we had the main event announced, which was Mr. Anderson versus Kurt Angle with special guest enforcer Sting, because he came out and interrupted the promo.
He definitely wants to have a part of Angle.
Yeah, definitely. We can tell. I just wonder though, Sting and Anderson, did they not have a feud 2 months ago? It's not good seeing these two friends when they just had a feud 2 months ago. At least the main event was announced. It was an effective segment in that way. We heard from Anderson. I guess it was kind of good. So we got the main event done. Heard from Anderson. Not a bad segment. We didn't see Immortal.
No, so I think it was a good opener because it gave us what we're going to be getting later. In that.
Yes, we then get. What I liked about TNA is they did announce the matches and everything that they were going to have tonight, like the whole main event with Hardy and the matches and stuff there, which was good. It's good to know what we're going to be getting on a night. It gives us something to look forward to, doesn't it?
That's very much true. Yes.
And the first match of the evening we got was Devon and Pope versus British Invasion for the #1 contendership for the TNA Tag Team titles. Not really the best of the contenderships, was it?
No, we had the Mexican American commentary, which obviously they had, because they're the ones who's going to face whoever wins this match. And the kind of thing is, I'm not quite happy who won this, because I'm just thinking that Pope and Devon, they meant to have this feud or some rivalry going on with each other.
Yeah.
And instead of having them lose and continue their rivalry, they end up winning and beating British Invasion?
Well, to be honest, we're just British marks, so we don't like it when British Invasion lose. But, you know, one thing that gets me here is you have a number one contendership match. British Invasion haven't been featured on TV since the last pay-per-view, which they were at, which they lost to Beer Money. And then Devon and Pope are having this rivalry, and it's just really... And it just shows now how bad the tag team division is now that Beer Money is probably going to break up and be in the main event scene, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty sucky. I'm just not happy with the winner of this match, but...
No. It looks like we've got new number one contenders then. Pope and Devon at the pay-per-view. The 3 days before we got number one contenders, because it's not been done a little bit earlier, maybe.
It should have been, yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. We then get a video package hyping up the finals of the BFG series. Now, you've got to remember, NJ, No Surrender, this is the focus, isn't it? This whole Bound for Glory series thing, and this should be the main event. So at least we're getting some kind of video package which is leading us to the main focus of that pay-per-view, which is, you know, the BFT series finals at No Surrender, which is good to see, even though it wasn't as long as I would have hoped.
I'm thinking the fact that we're having this whole Bound for Glory finalists, which are basically Immortal versus Fortune,
pretty much.
Basically, because we have Bully Ray, Gunner versus Beer Money, basically.
Yeah, James Storm and Robert Roode.
Yeah, so I thought that was alright, I think.
Yeah. Then we had a segment between all 4 of them are in the ring. We have Buddy Ray pretty much talking on the mic for a couple of minutes. He puts over Beer Money, talks about them being a tag team, but all tag teams have that tension between them that they want to know how good they'll be if they were singles wrestlers. So I think all this stuff he mentioned was quite relevant. It's just that I really wish he would have given more mic time to other people, like maybe Gunner, to get all 4 of them on the mic. Even though we had a bit of James Storm and Robert Roode.
I think Buddy Ray, being the guy he is, he was actually saying that he's the one who's going to go on and become the champion or face the champion.
Oh God, please no, that would be awful. He announces the 4 corners match for later tonight. All 4 of them are going to be in a 4 corners match, and that was the match before the main event.
True,
wasn't it? So you know, it was a decent segment for what it was. Robert Roode, I thought, put a very good promo. Really did show why I think he might just win this tournament.
He was definitely showing you that he's good on mic.
Yeah.
So if he does go off and win, you know he's going to make great promos on his own.
Yeah, and you know, he really made this tournament seem like it meant something to him. He talks about it being his dream to be a world champion, even though he's part of arguably one of the best tag teams in the world.
True.
So it's good that he's actually giving some meaning to this BFG series, because it kind of needs it, doesn't it? Kind of needs it at the moment.
The way it's been going, I think it does. Yes, it does.
Yeah. We then got a backstage segment, so effective segment in my opinion, anyway.
True.
We then get a backstage segment which is basically announcing Winter versus Mickey James for the title, and it's just like, why did they change the title? So why can't they just have built a feud from the start? Why did Winter lose the title to Mickey James on TV when we're getting it at the pay-per-view?
That's a bit of a shame, because now basically with Mickey James becoming the knockout champion now, you know that she's not going to just lose it about a week later.
And it would have helped the build so much when you had Winter as the champ for the month. It would have just made the feud make a bit more sense and be a bit more unpredictable. But I guess they want Mickey James going into Bound for Glory as the champion, so I can't really argue too much with that.
I just think they should have made her lose the championships in the first place.
Yeah, and also, could they not have had like an in-ring segment last week instead of that stupid bullshit, which was the leader of the fucking knockout segment, to have a promo segment or something between the two to hype up this match for the pay-per-view rather than just have it announced at the last fucking minute, you know?
It would have been a good idea instead of what we got.
Yeah, because at the hour main event was our TNA World Heavyweight Championship match between Kurt Angle and Mr. Anderson. This was a good match, wasn't it?
I think it was a pretty strong match between the 2 wrestlers.
Yeah.
They definitely put on a good fight for the main event. Yes.
It seemed a little bit rushed though, but I guess with TNA and the lack of time they give to matches on their shows because of the backstage segments and adverts and stuff, this is kind of the best we were going to get. Immortal interfere, typical, old NWO style, WCW style beatdown with like all the guys, including Jeff King Jarrett, beating down Sting and Anderson. So the match ended in a DQ, which kind of makes sense for the match we're going to get at the pay-per-view, which we didn't know at the moment, but we knew until the fucking near the main event at the end of the show.
Yeah, it's kind of sad that everyone came down and got all involved, made a big mess up at the end. But again, it's building up to what's going to be coming later in the pay-per-view, so it was alright.
I just couldn't believe this was our main event. Although I am glad that the main event was the main event match. That's all I'll say.
True.
We'll talk about that when we get to it. We then have a Velvet Sky and Mickey James versus Angelina and Winter Knockouts tag match. This got 5 minutes, so you've got a decent amount of time for a Knockouts tag match. You've got the champion and the contender in there, so I guess that kind of helps their feud a lot because you don't have to have them touch too much in the match. you can use Velvet Sky as kind of like a full girl for the champion in a way. I thought the match was okay. I didn't have any problems with it. It kind of did its job for the pay-per-view. It went to using the red mist again to get the win, so it makes the challenger look strong, even though she should be the fucking champion. She should change the fucking belts.
That's true. For a knockout match, I'm going to give it credit. It was actually a pretty good match. For 5 minutes, I guess that could do, because the action in the match was good, and the way it finished definitely led on to something more with the pay-per-view.
Yeah, good segment in my opinion. Did its job for the pay-per-view.
It did.
Yeah, we then get a promo segment, an X-Division promo segment, and we have Austin Aries on mic. He's always good on the mic. And then Kendrick comes out in a suit. Basically, I think he's trying to be Austin Aries. He talks a load of crap, but Kendrick. I have a bit of a problem with Kendrick having a majority of the mic time in this segment.
It did dominate the fact that your future opponent, Austin Aries, who is hopefully going to become the champion, didn't really get enough say against the champion.
Yeah.
So kind of that was disappointing.
Basically, Kendrick attacks Austin Aries after a bit of a confrontation, and Austin Aries runs out the ring. So it's a typical heel retreating before the pay-per-view. I just hope they give this belt to Austin Aries. I really do.
It would be good, because obviously Austin Aries is a great guy, and we've seen that he can cut great promos. He's good on mic. He can do good in-ring skills. So to have him defeat Ryan Kendrick at the pay-per-view would be definitely good for the match.
Yeah, so it was a decent segment, I guess, for the pay-per-view.
It was.
We know they're going to have a match, so helps.
It does.
Then we have, we have a backstage segment, which is basically Bischoff announcing that it's going to be a triple threat match between Anderson, Sting, and Kurt Angle for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. It's on your go-home show. This is not really. They really should have built to this a lot more than this, should they?
I'm going to agree with that, because Anderson, he hasn't really been involved in wrestling as much as he should be to give us the feeling that he's probably going to get back to the main event, championships. So it should have just been basically Angle versus Anderson here. Yeah,
Sting versus Flair put on the pay-per-view would make sense, wouldn't it? Rather than on free fucking TV.
Sure, yeah, I'll give it that.
I just can't believe they announced this match at the last minute. It just really doesn't make your TNA whatever championship that meaningful, and it kind of shows me that they're going to use the BFG series as the main event. That's what I'm going to say about that, because this just hasn't been built up at all.
No, it's not.
As our main event match of the evening, we get Bully Ray versus Gunner versus James Storm versus Robert Roode in a match which basically has all the guys in the BFG series. I thought this was a very good match. I like the fact that they used the BFG series match as the main event match. I thought that really added a bit to it, in my opinion. But the problem is, you needed to focus on the guys in the ring, not Joe and Morgan. At the start of the match, that was just a bit like, why don't you just, instead of that fucking TV title match, have Joe and Morgan have a segment which has something to do with the fucking pay-per-view, not that stupid TV title match that we had before.
It should have, because kind of having them get involved outside the ring here did drag a bit away from the beginning of the match. The only problem I have had with this is that this match only got 5 minutes compared to the match we had earlier with the Angle and that got 7.5 minutes.
At the same time as the knockouts, man.
Yes, it's kind of disappointing that, but again, for the 5 minutes it got, it had a good action. It showed you the more wanting to have this win before the pay-per-view.
Yeah, we see the whole you see the whole tease between Roode and Storm, which is nice to see. I still love to see this as the final. What I loved about this match, Gunner winning was a bit for me, but what this does at least it establishes Gunner as a singles guy and not just a full guy for Bully Ray, which is what I liked about this. It means that he wants to now go off on his own, and this match really showed it for me, which is good, especially when you're in a tournament where you need to be about yourself.
And before Gunner got into the whole Immortal thing, I thought he could do pretty well on his own. And this shows, even though he's had the build-up of Immortal, he's still got the whole, I can do stuff on my own thing. I've proven it tonight. I'm going to go and have a chance at the Bound for Glory at the pay-per-view. Yeah. And
if this was our main event and the last thing we saw of the night, I'd have been happy.
True.
I just don't understand TNA's insistence on TV ratings ahead of pay-per-view buys, and it really shows with this main event segment, doesn't it? We have Jeff Hardy having live mic time.
Well, the good thing about this, we didn't finish it with like Jeff Jarrett or Immortal, so that we finished with something different. Jeff Hardy basically, he's saying that he's coming back. He's got this whole sob story to get the fans' attention, basically around him again.
Screams babyface to you, doesn't it?
Basically, it did. Yeah.
One thing I don't understand here is this is the last thing you see before your pay-per-view, and it's like, does Jeff Hardy have anything to do with your pay-per-view? No. So why is it that? Why is he the last thing you see? Why can't you just wait until after the pay-per-view to showcase Jeff Hardy, so you can build him up for Bound for Glory if you're going to include him in there, rather than have him the last thing you see on a free TV taping before the pay-per-view we get.
And the good thing about this, as much as I agree with that, Jeff Hardy fans wouldn't really see this from a logical way, like we've just explained. They'll probably see, Jeff Hardy's back, we can all be happy. It's a great way to finish it. But we're really thinking, Jeff Hardy finishing it off a go-home show hasn't really done anything for the pay-per-view.
No, not really, not too much.
No.
So as a main event, I guess it was okay, but it's just that we think it could have been done better after the pay-per-view.
That's it, yes.
You know, I would have really liked it to end on the whole BFG series thing, but you know, there we go. That's TNA for you. We gave TNA a C this week, didn't we?
Pretty strong.
Yeah, so we'll go on to more about that on our overall thoughts. But should we now go on to the show, which happens on Friday nights, which is SmackDown?
Yeah, let's.
Okay, so finally we're on to SmackDown on the Friday night. The Friday night SmackDown that usually WWE bestows on us on a taped show, even though last week it was live.
And again, we've had a great live show last week. Now we're hoping for a better show this week, or if they can, still match up to it.
Yes, well, let's go and let's see what we thought. We'll see what we think, the good and bad of the show. So we start off with a video package hyping up Mark Henry, which was I kind of enjoyed. It kind of shows the heel looking strong with an Orton in a rivalry with Orton, which is always positive, isn't it?
That's very true. And with video packages, I think how WWE are with their video packages in the past, they're actually pretty good. And this particular Mark Henry one, I think did him some justice, ready for the rest of the night.
Yes, and the pay-per-view too.
And the pay-per-view.
And we open up with Mark Henry too, which was something different, wasn't it? I mean, this is the reason I kind of like this opening segment. It was nice to hear, even though Mark Henry isn't the best on the mic, it's nice to hear from Orton's challenger, who's being booked as this monster heel. He talks about the Hall of Pain.
And that's another thing. We've spoke this in our past videos. Give different wrestlers mic.
Yes.
So giving it to Mark Henry, yes, he might be the best, but he needs to get himself ready through words. For his best matchup.
Yeah, and developing his character as well.
Yeah, so it's all good, yeah.
It was all going fine and well until Zack Ryder came out. Zack Ryder, he tells Henry that him and Orton will be an individual singles action and there will be no contact between the two. I think basically this was a great way of burying Zack Ryder. Thank fuck for that, Because we do not like Zack Ryder at all.
Because obviously Mark Henry just lays him out and we just marked up. There was just a great moment.
Yeah, it was a fucking mark out moment, wasn't it? For us at the British Fist, we just don't like Zack Ryder. So
no.
So that was a pretty good opening segment, wasn't it? Zack Ryder got buried, and it was Mark Henry. So
very good opener.
Big thumbs up from me. That's all I can say. Just for burying that piece of fucking worthless piece of shit that is Zack Ryder. And you can comment down below what you think. But we just do not like Zack Ryder here at this show.
The only way I would ever like Zack Ryder again is if he goes into a tag team. But the WWE don't seem to like the idea.
Yeah, exactly. And after that segment comes out comes Ezekiel Jackson. I guess this was the match he was talking about. So that pretty much sets up Ezekiel Jackson versus Mark Henry, sort of big guy versus big guy. I guess it's kind of a good way to make Mark Henry look even stronger going into the pay-per-view, beating a guy like Ezekiel Jackson who we know has got tons and tons of power.
I'm going to give this match a thumbs up. We have the dominating Zeke versus the dominate Mark Henry. And they both showed their strength, their power, and put on a good first match for the night.
Yeah, and even though the match only went for 2.5 minutes, I'm not really a fan of short matches. But when you've got two bigger guys in the ring, this, he doesn't need too much time to really get the guy like Mark Henry over, because you can see his power, you can see what makes him a dominant heel. The match itself made total sense. Zeke isn't booked on the pay-per-view or in a rivalry at the moment, so it kind of makes sense for Mark Henry to beat him. So in I think this is a good segment for Mark Henry and the development of his feud with Orton and the development of his monster heel character.
I can't see much wrong in this opening segment, opening match. So it's all good.
Yeah, true. We get Orton and Rhodes announced as our main event, which is kind of nice.
But
it's kind of nice.
Explain that later.
Yeah. It's kind of nice SmackDown announcing their matches, which we don't usually get on SmackDown, really.
No, we don't. No.
We then got a match between Sin Cara and Tyson Kidd. Sin Cara last week, as we know, had this whole heel thing. It was a bit confusing. Was he face? Was he heel? He was going up against a heel. A little bit confusing, but the match itself was somewhat okay, even though it only went 3.5 minutes.
I think these two, they put on a good match against each other. Both showed their somewhat skills off to each other. We all knew that Sin Cara was going to pick up the win.
Yeah, because Tyson Kidd is pretty much SmackDown's jobber at the moment, isn't he?
He
He's
is,
the kind
yes.
of jobber that can put on a good match with someone and make someone look good because he is a very accomplished wrestler. I think they could use him a little bit better, but I guess I don't mind them using him this way.
And in the past couple of weeks, matches, pay-per-views and everything, it's always the aftermath that actually adds more to the match they've had just first.
Yeah, and this is one thing I liked about SmackDown this week. Every segment seemed to have something that mattered in it and really did something to develop a storyline, which really lacks on SmackDown a lot of the time. After Sin Cara won the match, we have Josh Matthews going out to interview Sin Cara. He talks about him being the new aggressive Sin Cara, and talks about being the real Sin Cara as well, even though
that was his quote. Yeah,
even though he's not the real Sin Cara, he's Hunico. So it's good to hear Sin Cara talk. At least now we can kind of develop a character and develop some kind of rivalry with someone, and it seems like they're doing it with Daniel Bryan.
It seems to be. The bad thing about the Daniel Bryan bit that came out afterwards is basically Sin Cara locks him in a bell lock, and he's just basically, you see Daniel Bryan laying there
tapping out.
Yeah.
I'm the Money in the Bank winner, and I'm getting tapping out, and it's just like, come on. He's the Money in the Bank winner. We're supposed to be believing him as a future main event guy, and you're just burying him. I mean, at least I guess this segment developed something between the two, and we got a match. Daniel Bryan wanted a rematch against Sin Cara next week, which we're going to get next week. So I guess it was decent hype for next week, decent hype for a kind of mini feud, which we're going to get on SmackDown. Even though I fear this is going to bury Daniel Bryan even more.
So again, we don't know really what Daniel Bryan's thinking. Maybe he's got a trick up his sleeve, or maybe this could be his first win in a while.
Who knows? Mr. Buried Alive, as we like to call him.
That's his SmackDown name.
Him and John Morrison should have a match at Night of Champions. Buried Alive match.
Pretty much, yeah.
Anyway, after that we get our typical SmackDown Divas segment. This time it wasn't AJ versus Tamina, or Tamina versus Rosa Mendes, or something meaningless like that. It was actually, this match had some kind of meaning behind it. We had Kelly, who was our Divas champion, versus Natalya, who we know is the accomplice of Beth Phoenix, who we know is going up against Kelly at the Night Champion. So this match made a little bit of sense, didn't it?
The thing about this match is we have Kelly who needs to look strong ready for the pay-per-view. Beth Phoenix at ringside because we need to get her and Natalya on TV because they're the Divas of Doom. And Natalya needs to look strong in this match because possibly she'll have a future match against Kelly again. If she wins at the pay-per-view.
Yeah. Natalya dominated the match, didn't she? Which she should have done. She's the dominant heel and a better wrestler. And Kelly gets the comeback win via roll up, so it makes her look stronger in this debut. But it didn't do too bad for Natalya because she looked dominant and she got rolled up for the win. So I would like to have a DQ finish and have Beth Phoenix and Natalya do the business on the champion. But I guess it was an okay segment for what it was, even though it didn't get too much time.
No, I think it was a good Divas match for SmackDown.
Yeah. After that, we get a segment where Christian comes out and he wants another title shot, even though we thought this feud ended. Last week, and thank fuck it did, because next we have Sheamus coming out. Yay!
It's really good because the thing about Sheamus is that basically he just tells him to shut up because obviously he doesn't deserve this match anymore. He's done everything he needs to, and now it's someone else to step up.
Yeah. And it's something that's managed very well this week. At least they're developing some rivalries now. We got Christian and Sheamus, which you saw from Raw was going to kind of be a rivalry. And we get the match between Sheamus and Wade Barrett as well, which wasn't a bad match. We got 7 minutes, which is more than most of the matches got tonight. It was a decent match, back and forth.
I will say this: you had 2 brawlers against each other, which was good. But haven't these two had a rivalry that has never actually finished, with one having the overpowered pin?
Yeah. Well, you've had Wade Barrett going against Daniel Bryan, Sheamus go against whoever, Mark Henry, and then you had. I know it's a bit of a mix-up in rivalries, but I guess they're developing a Sheamus Christian rivalry, and Wade Barrett was kind of like the guy who was going to be in the match, be the sort of third wheel, so to speak, of this rivalry.
We've never had like Sheamus pin Wade Barrett. It's always ended in no DQ. So that's probably left that rivalry open.
Yeah.
But if we're having now Sheamus versus Christian, Wade Barrett, maybe against Daniel Bryan again, or whatever's going to happen with him, you kind of just think open rivalries, which I don't quite agree with.
No, but at least the match ended in a DQ. The match got good time. It was decent for what it was, back and forth. The match got the match ended in a DQ, which I think was right, because you don't want to bury Barrett too much like you have been doing for the last couple of weeks, and you don't want to make Sheamus lose. Christian comes in, and him and Barrett do the business on Sheamus, and then he comes back and clears the ring, being the dominant monster baby face, even though I'm not really too much of a fan of it, in my opinion. But
no, I guess Sheamus hasn't really got anything coming up for him. So if he can continue to rival with Christian, it'll give him something to do, so I look forward to that.
Yeah, I still think this will be Sheamus's rise to the main event, going against a guy like Christian. That's what I think, anyway. Hopefully.
Would be nice to see again.
Who knows? Then it can be a rehash of Henry and Sheamus once more.
Maybe.
The next match we got was a tag team match between Kofi Kingston and Evan Bourne, Air Boom versus Mahal and Khali.
That sounds familiar. Let me think.
Did we not have this on another show, like Raw?
TNA. Oh, Raw, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I thought it was going to say ROH for a minute there.
Oh, no.
No, but anyway, so we had this match again, and basically this match was less about the tag team type, less about Bourne and Kingston, and more about this whole Jinder Mahal and Great Khali breakup, which I think has been done to get Mahal off TV because they feel he's too green. The match itself wasn't very good. Disappointing.
Because what Dan just said there about getting Jinder Mahal off TV, that's going to make Khali a face. And we really want to be avoiding that. So this whole breakup is basically not doing any justice, really.
No, we didn't really like this segment too much. I'd like to have seen Miz and Truth maybe interfere in this match, maybe to develop a feud between the two that they're going to have at Night of Champions.
So they've only got 1 week left to do that, which is not really enough time to make it mean something.
So really, this wasn't a very good segment. Probably one of the worst of the night, really.
True, yes.
Yeah. We then have our main event. Well, we have the night... Actually, no. First, we have our Night of Champions matches announced, which is nice. It's nice to have some matches which we know we're going to have 2 weeks before... Well, a week before the pay-per-view starts.
True. I think it was good.
Yeah. And then we have our main event, which is Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton.
Now, the big thing out of this is that Orton's the World Heavyweight Champion, Cody Rhodes is the Intercontinental. And having these two champion versus champion, I've not really agreed with them they've had in this month. Because basically, the whole pay-per-view is about championships, and to have two champions going against each other, you've got one of them looking strong and the other one looking weak.
This match was a good match though, wasn't it?
I give it a good match.
Yeah.
Orton's had some good matches in the last couple of weeks against different wrestlers now.
At least Rhodes gets some mic time that he can use to develop a feud, develop a rival, develop a character, that we know he's got. And also, what I liked about this segment, I know Cody Rhodes lost, but at least the Intercontinental Championship was featured in a main event. I just wonder where WWE are going to go with their Intercontinental Championship to the pay-per-view. Are they going to have Cody Rhodes versus Ted DiBiase? What's going to happen with that? I really would like to know. Same with the US title.
That's true. And we have Orton finish in a good way, I guess. He gets rid of Christian.
Christian?
That's
happened so many times now, it's embedded in your brain.
It feels like that. So he defeats Rhodes, and it was a good finish.
Yeah. What I liked about this match was that Rhodes controlled the match, and they actually booked Orton like a fucking babyface for once. They booked him as a babyface, which is good, because we usually see him being dominant like we did at SummerSlam and Krim and Christian, when Christian did all the fucking bumps. So yeah, I thought it was a very good match. It got 11 minutes, so...
That's true. 11 minutes main event, not bad at all. And it's, again, like I said earlier in the night, it's the aftermath that actually added more to it. We had Mark Henry coming down and just laying out Orton once again. Yeah,
once again, making him look strong. This is good because I can actually now believe Mark Henry could probably beat Orton at Night of Champions, even though I know he won't. At least I can believe he could beat him now, which is more than I can say for someone like Christian.
That's true. I think having Mark Henry doing all this against Orton has definitely got us thinking that, yes, he won't win, but it should be a better match than what it would have been if none of this happened.
Yeah, and we have Mark Henry ending the night and not Orton, which is always a positive for me.
That's true.
Yeah, so, we'll go into our overall thoughts then, shall we, on all shows?
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go then. So, NJ, in our overall thoughts, usually we go through each of the 3 events and say which one was our favourite. You just quickly give your thoughts on overall thoughts on the week in wrestling and which show you thought was the best and worst.
It seems like they're still continuing to make the whole Triple H and CM Punk thing the biggest thing going. Then trying to make the Cena and Del Rio mean something. TNA was an okay event. It had okay moments. It definitely got us feeling a bit of a feeling towards their pay-per-view.
No surrender,
but maybe not as much as they could have done. SmackDown itself, they concentrate on making Mark Henry look great, but they really should be announcing the mid-card titles.
Yeah, on both shows, really, Raw and SmackDown. If you want my thoughts, I still think SmackDown was the better show of the week. The reason why I say that is because we know SmackDown has really got a lack of storyline lately and a lack of logical booking. And I think in this show we saw a little bit of logical, simpler booking, which really helped the show, in my opinion, because we could understand why a lot of the things were going on. And I thought the show, it wasn't the most entertaining show, but I thought it was still when it's logically booked like it is, it makes, for me, what is a good show, because it's improving on what it needs to improve on, in my opinion. I thought Raw was the worst show of the week, though. Apart from the 1 hour main event segment, I didn't really think that the show was very good.
No, not really. No.
TNA was probably in between average.
Yeah, it was average, I guess.
So an average week in wrestling, I guess. Nothing special, but something, there we go. That's really what happens. Make sure you get your comments down below on what you thought of this week in wrestling, what you thought was the good and the bad and the ugly and the improvements that could have been made in the week. NJ, do you want to finish this off?
Well, this has been it from the British Fist, Ka-ching, and you've heard the words from Mr. Parkin himself.
Yay!
And me, the NJ. What's up? Moment of silence. Goodbye.